I'm quite plain spoken, so I apologise if I'm. I think that's a really good question. I think increasingly the industry needs to wake up and try and push clients beyond where they are comfortable. It's very interesting that we've been talking about a particular large corporate client. One of my clients works for a very large corporate client who is extraordinarily restrictive about the way in which they will receive the research. But at the same time is demanding a step change in the quality of the research delivery. I think the important thing that everybody needs to remember is however quick the internet feels, it will take you 18 months to move from where you are now to some sort of digital delivery, and I'm telling that to a very large market research client. They're currently working in PowerPoint. The client wants PowerPoint. The client will not accept anything other than PowerPoint. PowerPoint is an awful, awful way to communicate. There's a fantastic presentation somewhere about how PowerPoint led to one of the shuttles exploding, which is extremely good. It's worth seeking out. My fear is that the client will turn around in 6 months' time and say, I want iPad delivery, or I want mobile phone delivery. And it will take 18 months to turn where that market research firm is around to deliver via those methods. So waiting is not an option, what I would say. And try and think as far as possible about scalability and that challenge between, and this is something that we fight all the time, the challenge between scale and tailored design. The internet and technology works at scale. It isn't really a tool to do bespoke things quickly. You've got to be thinking about setting up systems, setting up services now, so that you can plan with enough notice. I think that the single message that I would give to people is this idea that a website can be produced in 2 days or something can be done very, very quickly it's not true. There is a little fellow somewhere in Devon who can put you up 2 web pages in 2 days. That's not what your client is likely to be looking for. You have got to think a long time in advance. Too many times I'm asked to produce something in a week. Oh, well, you've got lots of developers, you can do that. You must have banks of people in India somewhere, or that's the suggestion, is that simply throwing bodies at the problem will solve it. Short-term solutions end up being bad. You will pay over the odds to do something once and to do it quickly. Always try and think about how scalable this is. So I think everybody, I'm not here to put the fear of God into anybody, but things are going to change radically, I think, in the next 18 months. People's social use of things like tablets is starting to come into their professional life. iPads used to be entertainment devices, they're not anymore. And I think that you are going to start to get demands from clients very soon, and unless you have already thought about it and you already have relationships with people that can help you, that's what I would encourage you to do, is to start talking to designers, start talking to agencies that might be able to help you to do this sort of stuff now as much as possible, and try and have those relationships in place, because people can respond very, very quickly, but unless they sort of know already what your brief might be, or they already know the kind of audience that you're dealing with, that would be my warning, these things take time. They take time to plan properly, and if you don't take the time to plan properly, you will pay more than once, and you will pay an awful lot of money.
Okay, thanks, Emma. Giles, the question says clients want stuff by next week, and the traditional research methods may soon die. What should we do as an industry? Is something happens with you? Are you wanting stuff next week?
Some of our internal clients want things next week, and I think I agree with Emma that, first of all, you get what you pay for. And too often people forget to build in thinking time. Yeah, it's possible to do a survey and get the results by close of play today, but will that be usable? You've got to think about what you're actually trying to achieve. What is the business problem you're trying to solve? What's the best way of achieving that in terms of the methodology? And then when you've actually gathered your facts, take some time to just think about the implications of that. And that I word, insight, doesn't just come from looking at some data tables. You've got to build in the thinking time, and that's, I always push back with my Royal Mail hat on, and Aura feel the same. Push back to the internal client and say, well, if you want something that, you can put half a dozen questions on SurveyMonkey and get a response this afternoon, which I tend to actually get from the advertising department being driven by the advertising and media agency, then fine. But if it then gives you the wrong answer, don't come back to the insight, to the research team or the agency, if they want to use an agency, and complain if the decision was wrong and you've just wasted several million quid on an advertising campaign. So to me, you get what you pay for, and just allow time to think about the problem, the solution, and the implication.
Thanks. Jane, from the MRS's point of view, lots of training being offered, training in traditional qualitative and quantitative skills and techniques. When do we see our first cyber researcher course?
We've got quite a lot coming up on data and all these related issues in the next year. But I think the point of the question for me was, I did sigh a little bit about this question because it reminded me of the ad agencies about 10 years ago decided that creativity was going to be dead because digital was now here, and therefore nobody would want a big creative idea. And I think the more fragmented you get and the more methodologies you have or more routes to market, the more important the core quality of what you do and the discipline of the core quality is. And so I think the issue for us is to stop worrying about is this methodology more or less appropriate these days, but to look at the core of how you support the client. There's a survey in FT.com that says 74% of CEOs, when looking at their advisors, want added value, which includes access to networks and training as part of what advisors do for them. There is a side statistic which says that 54%, I think, of advisors think they get value for money, and only 2% of clients do, which I think is quite delightful. So I think the key to this is what is the two ends of what is the output, and how do we design for the output clients wanting to give that added value. And then the big question, which I think was sort of referred to here, is the one that a lot of clients just need help doing, is what is the question? And I think if we just take what clients say, I want an answer to, then we don't deliver them what they want, because frequently that isn't the question they're asking. And particularly with digital, and particularly with fragmentation, and particularly with the insidious nature of let's just stick something on a survey and see what comes back, the risk of actually asking the wrong question and sending your client careering quite expensively into a mistake is huge. And clients will listen if you really sort of push them on what is the question.
Are they listening? Are they pushing?
I think it's to answer the question, I think there's a trading balance. I think there is room for traditional as well as there is room for the more fast-moving stuff. I mean, qualitatively, we've had online groups emerging which takes away analysis. And so, that is being taught. It's yes, I want the result tomorrow, I want the result tomorrow. At the end of the day, the client, it's down to the researcher to ask the right question in terms of what the deliverables are out of the study, and in terms of what you're looking for and what the questions are, coming back to your point. But equally, it's about having a balance between, the right approaches at the right time, and there is a place for quick turnaround research depending on the need. And, SurveyMonkey and what have you, provide that sort of service to answer that short, quick, I need to know question. But if you're looking for depth, there's no substitute for doing it more traditionally, because it requires a much more in-depth approach to the methodology.
But a client's giving you the time to do it. That's part of the question.
No,
clients want stuff by next week.
No, you've got to kick back. I mean, at the end of the day, I'd always kick back and said, no, we'll either not do it, or this is what we believe to be the right way of approaching it. And if I was talking to Giles about that, or Leslie about that, I would give a case as to understanding what the nature of the problem is, and understanding the remit of the research in such a way that I would hope that these guys would sit back and say, yeah, we understand. Or there may be a situation where they say, no, but this is a situation, it might be an advertising-led scenario where a quick response is required. We've always had this issue, and I think the problem with most research agency people is a fear of questioning the client and actually pushing back and saying, are you serious? Do you really need this? And by the date you require it. I mean, how often have we sat there and sweated our blood, and the result is sat on the back burner for a couple of days, weeks, before they've actually acted on it?
Leslie, in the financial services industry, things can happen very quickly. And there may well be a need to get some research findings, within the matter of a day or two. And there are tools out there now to do that. I mean, what sort of pressure are you put on by your internal clients?
I think the pressure, where it exists with our clients, is to make sure that the outcome is properly evidenced. And they'll listen to a cogent argument about need to address the outcome we're seeking, need to address planning and thinking time. I guess I'm fortunate in a way that I work in an intelligent organisation. It might have been misplaced in some of its activities over time, which is why we're having to adapt and change. But it is intelligent. It doesn't seek to rush. It will seek to move more quickly. But given some of the issues we're dealing with, doing research overnight is just not an option. There's a bit of pressure on from our communications team to try and build things more quickly, but we don't have a direct-to-consumer relationship. We have a group of stakeholders where it's the long game that we're really playing. So we want to build an understanding of an issue, a solution to a problem, and we want to build that effectively with agencies and consultants. And we look for a marriage that works. I mean, I'm a broker. I look for a marriage between a set of suppliers and a client where we can do business together, and it's not driven by technology. Technology is a facilitator. It enables us. Sometimes it will be used as a research tool, and we certainly use it for data capture from firms, because that's part of the regulatory need. But in the consumer space, we're still working advisedly with face-to-face, depth qualitative, telephone. Yes, we do some work off digital platforms, but I'm much more interested in outcomes, focus, planning, thinking, quality delivery. And I spend most of my time just moving the clients along so that we have a far more informed debate about what's the most appropriate end game that we're all trying to get to. And I look for agencies who can help that argument.